It's been almost 1 year since the deadly wildfires swept through the Smokies.
What's really standing out since then is how East Tennesseans step up to make a difference, rebuilding what was lost.
Join us tonight for a special presentation as we share incredible stories of selflessness and volunteer spirit.
Rebuilding the Smokies, 1 year after the wildfires. Tonight at 7 on WVLT Local 8. About a year ago, there was a fire burning just a short distance this way, just a couple of miles in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. And then the wind started blowing. This is Anakeesta. It's a new development that was in the thought process, in the building process at the time of the wildfires. You can see an idea down there of what the development looks like. The buildings and things hadn't started yet when the fire rolled through, but the fire did roar through the top mountain here at Anakeesta. And what they did, instead of just tearing down all these burnt trees around us, they left them up, and this is now a memorial area to the fire. And Amanda's right over here. Amanda, they've got stories of the survivors as well.
Yeah, really interesting. So we have 8 different stories. This is one here, but Keith, if you can kind of swing around and show the different signs that are posted in this circle right here at the top of the peak. Each board tells a different story of somebody who escaped the fire, somebody who responded to the fire, somebody who was affected in some sort of way. And the folks here at Anakeesta are telling us that this is really a place to come and reflect and a place to remember. And the best way to do that is by sharing these personal stories. This is Alex Luden, and he says, we jumped into our car, grabbed our dachshund, took off, and everything that burned in our home was all we had left to remember our mother by. And so a lot of people talk about the memories that they lose, but, at the end of the day, Gatlinburg is still home for them. The folks at Anakeesta say that what they see is a lot of people coming up here, tourists, people who aren't from the area, and they're moved to tears. It really is a moving thing to read these stories and hear about what people went through and to know that we're still here.
And this, I think, is a perfect spot for us to choose to talk about the 1 year mark because of the rebuilding that's going on now in the mountains in Gatlinburg. Anakeesta has really become a beautiful thing since that fire roared through.
Mount LeConte behind us. You can see some of the little patchy areas that were on fire.
Not only are developments like this coming up after the fire, businesses rebuilding after the fire, people are too. 2,500 structures were lost. Dean Cato is one who told us that it's been a really tough year for him, as you might imagine, but it's not stopping him from rebuilding. He had a log cabin. The cabin burned down. He is now trying to rebuild on that same property.
Yeah, pretty interesting, too. He is not only rebuilding on that same property, but while he's working at Ober-Gatlinburg, he is sleeping inside of a camper near the construction site. People stopping in, asking, well, what are you doing? And what materials are you using? And how are you moving forward? And so everybody's kind of worked together to get on the same path towards recovery.
We've kind of helped each other out as far as, hey, who can you use for this? Who can you use for that? Where can you buy this wood? And, and so it's been a team effort from everyone.
The brand new restaurant is going to go in there, and then if a glimpse of the dirt around that's going to be a new mountain roller coaster, which is going to open up pretty soon.
We want to talk about what's changed, what's new, what's regrowing here from a business standpoint. Alamo Steakhouse, really one of the quintessential businesses here in Sevier County. The night of the fires, we had our reporters who were feet away from that steakhouse as it was burning to the ground. Now we're learning 2 months ago, it's reopened. The enthusiasm from the community, the support from the community is what helped them in their darkest hours move forward with rebuilding.
Those are the things that keep you going. Even before it was reopened, those emails that I would get or the Facebook posts where people would sort of cheer us on from afar.
It did hurt tourism. It did for a while. It'll be interesting to see the 1 year, the 2 year, the 3 or the 4 year mark and see how much it has bounced back because the people here in the mountains have bounced back. Let's talk about a guy named Sparky Newmeyer, owns a glass blowing shop. Make some beautiful creations here that represent the Smoky Mountains. People come in, they buy these things. Of course, he, like many others, had to go back to work after the fire. But he says he learned from his grandpa that that's just what you do.
Nothing is ever the same. It's like my grandpa taught me years ago. He says, you just brush yourself off and you keep going. You can't stop.
Such a huge part, though, Brittany, of the rebuilding in Gatlinburg and beyond was Dolly Parton Foundation and the My People Fund. $1,000 a month for everybody who lost their home. The last month, on the 6th month, they got $5,000.
2 recipients of that money, 2 brothers, and they not only lost their home, but they lost their jobs as well. Zachary and Bo McClellan, they tell us that Dolly's gift wasn't just much needed money. It was a sign that they needed to keep driving forward.
With that Dolly money, it really gave us a new light to things, that things were going to be okay. You know, we stayed and we fought through adversity.
Glad you're here, folks. I'm Ted Hall.
And I'm Amanda Hara. Thanks for joining us as we take a look at what's changed here in Sevier County. And it really does feel like a lot of time has passed since last year, since we were here last.
Trying
in the
to
middle
think
of the
back.
night.
Yeah, think back to that day. There was smoke in Gatlinburg. We decided we better get up there to Gatlinburg and do the news from there at 11 o'clock. And, of course, by the time we came up after our 6 o'clock news, Gatlinburg was burning. And the fire spread. It spread into different parts of Sevier County, and people died, and it was the tragedy that we feared it could be when we started seeing some of the early reports and videos.
And we were hearing those initial moments of chaos, of heartbreak, of tragedy, people who knew that their homes were gone, but they were at shelters helping other people anyway. You had an incredible interview with a guy who said
he barely got
things.
out of the mountain. He barely got out of the mountain and saw people with their tires melting behind him and worried about how many people weren't going to make it back there. That was a year ago. Now we're here. Again, fire raging here 1 year ago. Look at Anakeesta now. This is just a sign of the rebuilding that has already happened here in a year.
Local 8 News reporter Sarah Jane Anderson shows us the remarkable things that are happening ecologically within the Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
New life is sprouting next to burned trunks on Baskins Creek Trail in the national park.
You just see these seedlings kind of rising from the ashes and helping this landscape recover, just as our entire community has been.
Dana Sowen shows us the intense burned landscape, something plenty of tourists have looked for over the past year.
Many were curious and wanted to see what it did look like.
The hundreds of acres burned are just a small part of the massive park. And while we are seeing growth, it is a slow process.
To see a climax forest here may take us another 80 or 100 years. These vegetation communities are going to recover, and that points to the resiliency of the Smokies and these mountains.
And the people. In the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Sarah Jane Anderson, Local 8 News.
There are still up in the mountains a couple of trails still closed because of the fires. They hope to have them open in the spring.
And we know Sevier County is really known for its artisans, its craftsmen and women who make incredible treasures. The Arts and Crafts Loop took a big hit. Local 8 News anchor Casey Wheelis is showing us how one man is hoping to reignite it.
I consider myself blessed, and I mean that truthfully, you know.
When you buy a piece of artwork,
So how does that look there?
you're buying more than just an object.
We'll heat this up over 2,100 degrees.
You're buying a small piece of someone else's life.
You can see it in their eyes when they see something they really like, and when it's something, you know, that I made, it's an inner feeling that, you know, I wish everybody could have. I was in the military. I was the first group that didn't go to Nam, and they stationed me in Vicenza, Italy. Got an island outside of Venice called Murano Island. They're known worldwide for their glass. I used to go down there watch them at least once a month.
Those visits would turn into his livelihood at his shop in Gatlinburg, fueled by the flame on his torch. But it was a series of flames that would prove deadly, that nearly broke him and all of Sevier County.
And my wife said, hey, why don't you go outside and take down the Thanksgiving decorations? I'm colorblind. So I'm out there and I see all this strange stuff with the sky, but I can't tell really the colors. And she says, let's hurry up and get home. I don't know what's happening, but there's going to be some major trouble. Something's going on.
It would be several days before he was allowed back into his shop. His livelihood was still there.
I think we have lost 8 businesses already on the loop. Grandpa taught me years ago. He says, you just brush yourself off and you keep going. You can't stop and that stuff. You stop, you get bypassed, is what he would say. All right, let me put a hook on this thing.
So when you buy a piece of art from this loop in Gatlinburg, you're buying a bigger piece of a new beginning.
I think it'll bounce right back.
Reporting in Gatlinburg, Casey Wheelis, Local 8 News.
Welcome back to Anakeesta as we explore what's changed in the last year since the deadly wildfires hit Sevier County. We talk about the rebuilding process for a lot of people. You'd think it would be daunting and terrifying, and for many it has been. But there are a few who say they really wouldn't trade the experience for anything in the world because of what they've learned.
Might not be what you expect to hear, but this is what you're going to hear. Here's Local 8 News anchor Lauren Davis.
Dean Cato works from sunup to sundown, rebuilding his home on Cliff Branch Road.
It's been a long year. It's been the longest year of my life.
A long year rebuilding his home by hand after the wildfire left it in ashes. The structure is finished and he's working on the inside. His son, who is homeschooled, helps him during the day, and he studies at night. Brady still remembers running from the fire.
We just got out, left, still remember seeing neighbors' homes burning. Drove over a little tree that had fallen.
The Catos aren't the only ones rebuilding. Some neighbors have started construction, but many lots sit empty.
Well, I think some folks probably got their insurance and decided it wasn't worth the hassle to rebuild.
This one-year mark is something Dean would like to forget about, but he tells me there is one good thing to come out of all of this.
The wonderful thing about this whole event is that I really have gotten to know my neighbors in a way that I didn't before.
And his son learned a lot of valuable life lessons.
Take extra precaution around certain things and just be thankful for what you've got mainly.
In Sevierville, Lauren Davis, Local 8 News.
Dean tells us that he hopes to be in his home by Christmas.
We did have a crew or two who got into Gatlinburg to document what happened, and it was a difficult thing for them to do. I think it's one of the only ways we can tell the story and relay to you folks how bad that fire was.
Yeah, China Green and David Ball, two of our reporters, they were actually behind the fire line and gave us really what was our first look at some of the destruction in Gatlinburg. And they showed us live on Facebook the Alamo Steakhouse, kind of a quintessential place here in Sevier County, burning down. Well, today David Ball is taking us back to that iconic restaurant that's now reopened.
We're at the Alamo Steakhouse. It's behind us. What's left of it, that's right. Intense flames and unbearable smoke engulf the Alamo Steakhouse.
They're telling everybody just to get off the mountain and don't come up here. And the best thing you can do is just get out.
Burning the popular restaurant to its foundation. But today, you have to look and listen inside to even tell there was a fire.
Welcome to the Alamo. How are you doing?
The Keene and Sanders family visit Gatlinburg every year. The last time they were here, they were eating just a few days before the fire.
We might be 100, 200 miles from here, but it was really close to us. And we felt like we lost something. It's good to come back and see it's reborn.
Owner Kelly Johnson says this is the same restaurant so many people know and love.
I almost forget now that the fire happened a little bit because the building looks exactly the same from the outside. So you're not reminded every time you park. And there's no, rubble or burnt tree, we don't see any signs. And now that we're up and running, I can forget about it.
But she and her staff can't forget the past. Inside sits one of the only surviving pieces of the fire, a mural with images of the original staff who stood in for the artist.
All right, so Kelly, tell me about this. This is very cool. What's so special about this?
Well, it's one of the only things that survived the fire, and it was an original mural from when we built the Alamo 17 years ago. I was really surprised that it survived. I mean, it melted our fireproof safe, the fire. Like, it literally disintegrated a fireproof safe, but yet this mural of plaster survived. It was sort of great to have something to hold on to.
The flames can burn the building, but it can't break the bond of the Alamo family.
I mean, they really do, because some of them lost everything. And they all know what it's like. And they also, worked in other places with each other, and so their relationship is definitely different. And I think definitely stronger. It certainly seems that way.
In Gatlinburg, David Ball, Local 8 News.
Dolly Parton gave people a place to pool all of their money together. Her My People Fund raised nearly $9 million because you reached out and donated. And that money went directly to people who needed it most.
Yeah, here's our Sevier County Bureau Chief, Kyle Granger, to show us how that money really is making a difference.
Twin brothers Zachary and Bo McClellan come home with a peace of mind 1 year after the Gatlinburg fires.
It makes it easier to sort of cope and move on and sort of get on with your life and be thankful for like things that have come after, you know, such a bad time.
The night of the fires, they didn't know the chaos surrounding them until a knock on the door.
So we were just so caught off guard with the winds and everything coming in. The cop was just like, you guys need to leave like now.
The boys were home early from their jobs at the Skylift, which had shut down because of clouds of smoke. Minutes later, they saw a red glow in the sky that had overcome the smoke as they left their home for the last time.
You can literally sense like something bad was coming, and we just had to get out.
The brothers had no home and only a few pieces of clothes on their backs. By morning, more bad news.
We find out our job is burnt down as well. So we're all kind of just frozen in time.
Like, what do we do?
Like, this is the perfect storm. We either can flight, we can get out of Tennessee, or we can stay here and just see what happens.
These are my people, my memories.
Dolly Parton put the twins and other victims at ease, calming their fears with millions of dollars for relief. Parton's My People Fund gave families $10,000. It bought everything in this apartment and helped the boys with rent.
With that Dolly money, it gave us a new light to things, that things were going to be okay.
I can see the light of a clear blue morning.
That light found in the darkest moments of their hometown's history. They carry this work uniform, the only thing found in the ashes at their former home, as a reminder of how far they've come.
A piece of history that I carry with me too, to say that this was from the Gatlinburg wildfires.
And it's the days after that night that gave them a new light on life.
It really it brought a tear to my eye to see everyone just, coming together as one. And, it reassured me that everything was really going to be okay.
Those two brothers, just a fraction of the people touched by the My People Fund, nearly 900 recipients or people who were able to benefit from your donations that Dolly Parton just helped pool together. There is leftover money for new problems that should arise. Mountain Tough is now the organization that's going to be handling and distributing that fund.
Welcome back to Rebuilding the Smokies here on WVLT Local 8. So many stories of people having to escape the flames. Well, a young East Tennessee girl who's becoming a country star had to do it in her tour bus.
And she wrote an anthem that victims and survivors are clinging to. Here's Local 8 News reporter Ann Brock.
So back here this is just our little kitchen right here.
13-year-old Emmy Sunshine and her mother Alicia Hamilton spend a lot of time on this tour bus that doubles as her homeschool classroom when the family goes on the road for Emmy's concerts. The bus was their camper last year when they went for a girls' getaway near Gatlinburg. When they first asked about the smoke settling in on November 28th, they were told it would not affect them.
5 minutes later, they come up to our door to the bus and say, well, the fire's in this area. You guys need to evacuate now. It could be here. And it freaked me out.
I was the most scared out of everybody on the bus. I was the most scared. I kind of panicked. The smoke was so thick that we couldn't even see.
Yeah, we used bandanas. We used bandanas to cover our mouths and everything. Fire spread separated by miles.
The group had no bus driver, but a stranger stepped up to drive their bus away from the campground.
He was just an angel who came to us and got us to safety.
It turns out that volunteer driver and his wife were vacationing from Louisiana.
He loved the kids, he loved his wife.
Fire missed the campground, but not the heat or the smoke. Soon the family saw news of those who had not escaped.
We heard that a man had lost his wife and children in the fires, and it just devastated us. He held out hope in spite of fear, till she was found with the doctors near. That could have been me. That could have been my family.
The song Resting Place has become a musical tribute to lost lives and homes, to mountain strength and the season for rebuilding.
These mountains will always be my home, though the embers took much away. Sometimes you gotta put a little pain out there to help people get a little bit of joy.
Yeah.
For the sorrow there is hope and grace still in these mountains. On my resting place.
In those first few days following the fires, really an iconic image of hope emerged, and a lot of people clung to it, and it really did change a family's life.
Local 8 News reporter Kelsey Lair told us about that image then. Now she finds out where it is.
The fire picked up on the mountain, and the wind pretty much flew the embers over, and it hit, and it pretty much just engulfed the house. And so we came back yesterday morning, and this is what was left.
It only took a few hours.
Shocking that fire could go that fast, that quick, and do this much damage.
To dismantle decades. Everything that Dakota Cogdill's grandparents worked for, gone.
This is everything they had. You know, they lived here for 43 years. You know, and there's just so many memories that come with it.
The fire took pictures and jewelry, even Jim Cogdill's Purple Heart from Vietnam.
We had nothing, you know, like clothes or even to the essentials like a pair of fingernail clips.
My younger son had a really hard time with it. He dug in the ashes for days and days, and we finally just had to make him stop. He was so hopeful he could just find anything.
And it turned out he did.
I had a rose garden, and it was in my rose garden.
This statue of Jesus.
The Jesus statue is the only thing left standing, the only thing really intact throughout the whole house. And, you know, we just think that's because he's the center of our family.
You know, I thought, you know, God was showing that he was taking care of us.
Fast forward a year, and Judy still stands by that.
I could not tell you the stories of how kind, how many people I have given, time and everything to help us.
They're in a new home now, one renovated by their son and furnished by friends and strangers.
And in this room, another good friend said, I've got a bedroom set I want you to have.
Everything had to be replaced, with one exception.
It's sitting on my front porch, and it will always be closed. It still has charred black on it, and somebody said, are you going to clean it up? And I said, no. I want it just like it is.
Why do you think that?
Well, you know, it reminds me that he was watching over us.
It's taken a year to replace what was ripped away in just a matter of hours. But from now on the front porch, will always sit a reminder.
We just feel so blessed. You know, out of the ashes can come good things.
In Sevier County, Kelsey Lair, Local 8 News.